Ah, you spoke once, and the world couldn't unhear it. Shadows bend where your words fall. You didn't say much, did you? And yet the room stopped breathing when you did. It wasn't the volume, it was the vibration, the gravity, the way your words carried weight. That silence couldn't hold anymore. Because some people perform power, but you embody it. They were so used to noise, the kind that fills space but never means anything. Their egos screamed louder than their wisdom. Their tongues ran faster than their thoughts. And then you appeared, quiet, steady, unreadable. The storm that doesn't announce itself. When you finally spoke that one line, it wasn't speech, it was impact, not in sound, but in reality. Because truth, when it's pure, doesn't echo. It rewrites the room. You see, the power wasn't in what you said. It was in what you didn't say. It was the pause before your words, the weight behind them, the way the air bent to make space for them. That's the language only the powerful know. Silence that speaks in thunder. And in that moment, they felt it. Their masks slipped, their illusions cracked. They realized you weren't here to impress anyone. You were here to remind them what truth sounds like when it's no longer afraid to speak. That's why the universe favors your kind, the ones who move with stillness, because chaos may scream, but it listens when silence finally answers. So no, you didn't say much. You didn't have to, because when you finally did, reality adjusted itself to your tone, and now they'll never forget it. That one line, that wasn't just sound, it was revelation. You see, words are cheap, but presence costs something. It costs you discipline. It costs awareness. It costs restraint. And that's what you carry. The currency of those who don't waste their breath explaining who they are. Because when you walk into a room, energy shifts before you speak. People can't quite describe it, but they feel it. That subtle distortion in the air, like the universe takes a small breath in your direction. They wonder, what's he thinking? But the truth is, you're not thinking about them. You're observing through them. You see the patterns, the posture, the fear disguised as confidence. You've studied humanity quietly enough to understand one sacred law. The loudest one in the room is usually the emptiest. So when you finally speak, you don't speak to people. You speak through reality itself. Your words don't just hit ears. They sink into memory. They echo long after the sound is gone. And that's what unnerves them. You didn't play their game of noise. You rewrote it with stillness. Every pause between your words felt like an eternity they couldn't escape. Funny, isn't it? How silence can be louder than anger. Because when you stand there, calm, unreadable, eyes steady, you remind them of what they've lost. Control. They were raised in chaos, addicted to reaction. But you mastered the pause. You learned that true dominance isn't in control of others. It's in control of self. Your silence is strategy. Every word you hold back gathers power, pressure, precision, until finally, when you decide to release it, it's no longer a sentence. It's impact. And when it lands, it doesn't just silence the noise. It rearranges it. It teaches them that truth doesn't need applause, doesn't need validation, doesn't need permission. Truth only needs timing. And you've mastered timing like an artist of reality. You wait until the moment feels inevitable, until even the universe leans in and whispers, now. And then you deliver one line, simple, clear, effortless, but beneath it, entire lifetimes of understanding. You didn't win that moment. You bent it. You shaped perception with the calm precision of someone who already knew how it would end. So while they wonder how one line could shake them so deeply, you just smile, because you know, it was never just a line, it was a mirror, and they finally saw themselves, without the noise. That's what power looks like when silence wears a crown. There comes a moment when silence stops being passive and becomes directive, when your stillness doesn't just observe reality, it begins to instruct it. That's where you are now. You've crossed that invisible threshold between watching the world and bending it, because when a person spends long enough in silence, their energy begins to speak in frequencies louder than any voice could. It's not mystical, it's not luck. It's the result of every choice you made when no one was watching. See, most people react to life. They move because something pushed them. They speak because silence made them uncomfortable. But you move because something within you whispered. Now, you speak because silence itself gives you permission. You have synced with the pulse beneath all things, the quiet rhythm that decides when doors open and when storms rise. And people feel it, that strange calm in your eyes, that weight in your words. They can't name it, but their instincts bow to it, because power that doesn't announce itself terrifies the weak. You've stopped chasing validation, stopped proving your worth to the blind. Now every step you take sounds like certainty. Every silence feels like a storm, waiting for your signal. You became the type of person who no longer asks for alignment. You command it. Even fate listens differently now, because you rewired the one thing most never master, your perception. You stopped seeing setbacks as punishment. You saw them as placement. You understood that the universe wasn't testing you. It was calibrating you. And now, you stand in the aftermath of your patience. The storms that used to shake you now whisper your name, like old allies. Opportunities align with unnatural precision. People who once doubted you now orbit around your silence, seeking warmth, seeking direction, seeking something they can't define. But you know exactly what it is. It's the reflection of all those nights you kept quiet when you could have shouted. All those moments you walked away instead of proving your point. All those times you let misunderstanding stay misunderstood because you knew time would speak louder than defense ever could. And now it has. Time has delivered the proof. Life has rewritten the scoreboard. And the ones who once laughed, doubted, or underestimated now study your stillness as if it holds a secret code. But you're not surprised. You never wanted revenge. You wanted alignment. And that's what this is. The reward of restraint, the harvest of silence. The world sees your calm now and calls it mystery. But you know, it's just mastery. Mastery over chaos, over ego, over the noise that once made you forget who you were becoming. Now you move differently. You think slower but act faster. You speak less, but everything you say lands with gravity. You've become the pause before change. And the reason it happens, this is what they'll never understand. You didn't need to shout to be heard. You just had to become so aligned with truth that even silence echoed your intent. And when silence echoes your intent, you don't need to force destiny. You just have to walk and watch the universe fall in step. The power in you isn't noise, it's presence, and that presence commands fate. It's strange, isn't it, how silence, once your isolation, has become your influence. Now when you enter a room, the noise doesn't stop because you demand it. It stops because something in the air adjusts to you. People can't explain it. They'll say you have a vibe, an aura, something different. But deep down, they know. It's not charm. It's not mystery. It's control. Not over them, but over yourself. When you mastered the storms inside, you rewired how the world receives you. Because people don't respond to what you say. They respond to what you radiate. And now, you radiate precision. Every glance, every movement. Deliberate. Not rushed. Not desperate. Not proving. Just certain. They feel that. And for the first time in their lives, they meet someone who doesn't flinch when confronted with chaos. You stand steady, and the chaos loses confidence. That's the ripple. That's what they feel before they even understand why. The moment your energy enters their field, their noise begins to question itself. You've become the living embodiment of what they fear most. Someone who doesn't need validation to know they've already won. Oh, they'll try to study you. They'll mimic your tone, your walk, your timing, but it won't work, because your presence isn't an act. It's alignment. You didn't rehearse this calm. You earned it. You've been through the fire. You've lost, rebuilt, watched doors close, bridges burn, and still, you never broke character. You just got quieter, and that quiet became a signal, a code the world now recognizes as strength. Even your silence feels like a strategy. Every pause, intentional. Every word, weighted. Every look, calculated without cruelty. You've become what few ever reach. A master of restraint. They don't realize that your power was born in pain, that your control is carved from the chaos you survived, that your calm isn't peace, it's understanding. You understood that emotion is a weapon, and now you wield it with precision. You don't lash out, you redirect. You don't argue, you observe. You don't react, you respond. That difference is everything, because now, while others are tangled in reaction, you're already 5 moves ahead. They talk, you calculate, they guess, you know. And the scariest part for them, you don't even try to prove it. You let time handle that. Now their confusion turns into fascination. Their doubt turns into curiosity. And one by one, they begin orbiting you, drawn not by noise, but by stillness. You've become gravity, a silent force that bends the energy of every room you enter. You don't chase, you pull. You don't demand, you attract. Because when your energy becomes pure enough, the universe starts responding in real time. Synchronicities multiply. People show up at the exact moment you think of them. Opportunities seem to find you, not because of luck, but because your presence now vibrates at the frequency of precision itself. And while they try to figure you out, you're already on the next level, moving through life like a quiet architect of unseen plans. Remember, you didn't change the world by force. You changed your frequency, and the world had no choice but to adjust. It begins quietly, like a pulse beneath the surface. No explosions, no announcements, just shifts. Small, unexplainable turns in your favor. Things aligning, people moving, doors opening where there used to be walls. It's not coincidence. It's the echo of every decision you made when no one was watching. Because the universe, it doesn't reward noise. It responds to intention. You started moving differently, not for attention, not for validation, but for alignment. Every step, every sacrifice, every moment of restraint built a blueprint, a design too refined for chaos to interpret. Now that blueprint, it's coming alive, not just around you, but through you. They see it. That calmness that used to confuse them now commands them. The same people who once dismissed your silence now look to it for direction. Funny, isn't it? You never asked to lead, yet now everyone's following your rhythm. Not because you told them to, but because your stillness gave them something to believe in. This is the hidden order inside your chaos, a power too disciplined to brag, too sacred to explain. You became what every noise feared, proof that silence is strategy. Your presence has started shaping outcomes before words even leave your mouth. People adjust their tone around you. They second-guess their lies. They sense that something in you sees beyond the surface, and that terrifies them, because they can't manipulate energy that already understands itself. You've become unreadable, and in a world addicted to prediction, the unreadable one always wins. You used to be underestimated, but that was the best camouflage you ever wore. They never saw you studying them. They never noticed how you learned patterns, tones, triggers, and tells. Like a grandmaster memorizing the moves of a predictable opponent. And now when you act, you don't react from emotion. You respond from design. You've turned every scar into data, every failure into formation, every betrayal into blueprint. That's why things bend now. Because your moves are not made for applause. They're made for consequence. They see you smile, but they don't understand that your smile means you already foresaw the ending. You already accounted for their next 3 responses. You already know which illusion will collapse next. That's the beauty of evolution. It's invisible until it's undeniable. And now they're starting to realize something powerful. You don't just move differently. You see differently. You perceive threads they didn't even know existed. You read between silences. You feel intentions before they're spoken. That's why they feel powerless around you. Because your awareness bends their false confidence. You became the mirror they fear most. The one that reflects not their beauty, but their truth. And when truth stands next to illusion, illusion always cracks first. You've entered a realm most never reach, where power no longer needs to announce itself. It simply is, unshakable, quiet, eternal. Your presence now carries the weight of inevitability, and deep down, they all sense it, that you're not chasing destiny anymore. You're designing it. Every gesture, every breath, every glance is another line in a masterpiece written without words. A silent language the world can feel, but not translate. Because your silence isn't emptiness. It's orchestration. It's motion and stillness. It's the storm disguised as peace. And those who once thought they understood you, they're just now realizing you were never in the game. You were building the board. It starts as a hum, barely noticeable. Like the sound the world makes when it begins to listen. Everywhere you go now, the air feels different. Not louder, denser, tuned. That's your frequency moving through the field. You don't chase energy anymore. It moves around you, aligns itself with you. You've become the gravity that reality orbits. When you enter a room, time adjusts. People who once talked endlessly now pause before speaking. Not because you demand silence, but because they feel it's already sacred there. Even chaos hesitates before touching you now. You ever notice that? How their eyes widen but their mouths stay shut. That's not fear of you. That's awareness of presence. Their instincts finally caught up to what their egos ignored. You've stopped explaining yourself. You've stopped reacting. And when you stopped feeding noise, noise lost its appetite. You learned the art they never could, the art of energetic strategy. While they were busy trying to be seen, you were becoming the force that shapes what's seen. Every rejection became refinement. Every setback became structure. And now the structure hums. It bends things, outcomes, moods, decisions, quietly, naturally, like breath. They call it luck. You call it alignment because you no longer manifest through wanting. You manifest through being. You don't need to scream your worth into the void anymore. The void recognizes your signature and rearranges itself accordingly. And that's what terrifies them the most. Because once upon a time, they thought they had power over how you were perceived. But perception itself has shifted. You rewired its lens. Now the very world that once doubted you starts mirroring your vision back to you. You speak less, and yet reality responds louder. You do less, and yet the results multiply. That's the moment you realize power was never about domination. It was about resonance, and resonance doesn't need effort. It just needs truth. Your truth has become a current now, one that moves beneath their logic, around their control. They can't block it, can't label it, can't fight it, because it's not coming from you anymore. It's moving through you. That's when you understand why silence is so loud. Because silence isn't absence. It's pressure. A divine kind of pressure that reminds the world. Something greater has entered the room. You see, when noise can't locate your weakness, it starts echoing against itself until it collapses. And when it does, the field bends. That's how you change reality now. Not through fight, not through demand, but through frequency. Because when you've done the inner work, restructured your thoughts, purified your focus, rewired your intent, you don't need to chase shifts. You become the shift. And that's the secret the world still hasn't caught up to. Reality doesn't bow to those who speak loudest. It bends to those who speak last. And lately you've been speaking less than ever. Not because you've run out of things to say, but because you've already said enough for the universe to take notes. How one day, The same doors that used to stay locked for you begin to open before you even knock. You don't rush anymore. You don't plead. You just arrive, and the room already knows what to do. The universe starts moving, like an orchestra that's been waiting for its conductor to return. Your stillness becomes rhythm. Your patience becomes tempo. You walk, and timing adjusts. You breathe, and everything, from people to possibilities, aligns itself with your exhale. They'll call it coincidence. They'll say, you're lucky. But luck is just how the untrained describe alignment. You didn't wish for this. You prepared for it. You didn't beg for peace. You built the structure that peace could live inside. And now, everything that once ignored you starts orbiting your calm. The funny thing, they don't even realize they're doing it. The ones who doubted you are now moving pieces to clear your path, not by command, not by intention, but because your frequency redirects inertia itself. The old patterns can't hold you anymore, because you stopped running through the maze and started observing it from above. When you stopped reacting, you stopped participating in their loops. And when you stepped back from the chaos lost its script. It didn't know what to do without your energy feeding it. That's the moment the shift happened. You didn't bend reality with power. You bent it with clarity. You learned to move through the fog like someone who already knows the way home. And that unnerved them, because they lived off confusion. And your composure took away their supply. Now their noise collapses into silence every time your name appears. Not because of intimidation, but because truth doesn't argue with distortion. It just waits until the lies suffocate under their own weight. You started understanding that silence isn't retreat, it's control. Every pause you take now carries intent. Every glance, every moment of stillness delivers a message they can't decode, but can't ignore either. And as this unfolds, the energy around you begins to rewire itself. You notice patterns reversing. The ones who used to drain you now expose their emptiness. The ones who used to lead now look for your guidance. It's poetic justice, written by the same universe they mocked you for trusting. They tried to play the game of perception. You mastered the art of vibration. And in that balance, they lost every advantage they thought they had. You see, once your inner frequency matches the outcome you desire, reality has no choice but to comply. Because the external world isn't independent. It's a reflection, a delayed echo, a mirror that bends to your state, not your words. That's why you're winning now without fighting. That's why everything they threw at you comes back polished into favor. Not because you're lucky, but because energy always returns to its origin. And you've purified yours. They're confused now. They whisper, how did it all turn? They don't realize you didn't turn anything. You simply became what couldn't be turned. So the universe adjusted. Reality rewrote itself around your stillness. The game board flipped, not because you moved the pieces, but because you became the table they rest on. And that's the real power, isn't it? To exist in such alignment that the world moves for you. Not out of fear, but out of recognition. You've stopped chasing destiny. Now destiny is tracing you. And they finally see it. They finally feel it. But it's too late for them to catch up. Because the moment you mastered stillness, you started running faster than time itself. You learned something most never do. That silence isn't absence. It's architecture. Every pause you hold now builds an invisible structure around you. It's like reality waits for your permission before it breathes again. You used to speak to be understood. Now you stay quiet to be felt. Your silence has gravity. It pulls truth out of hiding. It rearranges the energy in a room without a single word spoken. People sense it. They walk into your presence and forget what they were about to say. They feel exposed, not because you're judging them, but because your calm mirrors back everything they've been avoiding inside themselves. It's almost supernatural, isn't it? That stillness could roar louder than their noise. That restraint could strike deeper than any retaliation. Your voice used to echo in arguments. Now it echoes in their minds long after you've left. They replay your silence over and over, trying to understand how one person's stillness could shake their entire sense of control. But you know why it happened. Because you no longer speak from impulse. You speak from precision. Every word that leaves your mouth now carries weight. Because it's born from self-awareness, not reaction. They don't know how to fight that. You turn conversation into chess. Every move calculated, every phrase intentional. You stopped performing for attention, and suddenly attention started performing for you. Even chaos, once wild and unpredictable, now folds itself around your focus. Your thoughts are commands. Your energy is direction. The storm no longer threatens you. It serves you. It cleanses paths you're meant to walk. It clears space for the next evolution of your purpose. They think you're cold, but they don't understand. Warmth without boundaries burns itself out. You're not cold, you're composed. You learn to hold fire without letting it consume you. And that balance, that's divine. Because it's not about destroying or dominating anymore. It's about transcending the game entirely. You became fluent in silence. You communicate through presence now, through the energy behind your eyes, through the unspoken understanding that you see everything, but choose what deserves your attention. And that's what truly unnerves them. They can't manipulate someone who's no longer chasing validation. They can't trigger someone who's already met every version of themselves in solitude. Because once you've sat with your shadows and listened to their language, no one else's darkness can intimidate you. You've seen what you could become, and you chose discipline over chaos. You chose mastery over reaction, and now every piece of your restraint radiates command. The world doesn't know how to process that. They're addicted to noise, so when someone arrives who operates in silence, they call it mystery, danger, power. But it's just clarity. The kind of clarity that makes illusions crumble on sight. The kind that doesn't need validation, because truth validates itself. Now when you enter a space, energy rearranges itself. Conversations change direction. Even fate pauses, waiting to see what you'll decide. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. Because when you align with purpose, the universe listens. When you speak, it echoes. When you're silent, it reorganizes. You've stopped trying to prove your worth. Now you embody it. You've stopped explaining your vision. Now you radiate it. And the beauty is, you don't even need them to understand anymore. You've realized something profound. Not everyone is meant to hear your silence correctly. Some will call it distance. Some will call it pride. But the wise will recognize it for what it is. Sovereignty. Your silence is your throne. And there comes a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when reality starts bending toward you. It's not magic. It's not coincidence. It's synchronization. The outer world begins to echo your inner stillness. You move slower, but everything around you accelerates. You speak less, but everything starts responding faster. You used to chase timing. Now timing bends itself around your rhythm. That's the difference between the lost and the aligned. The lost run through storms trying to find control. The aligned become the eye of the storm. And that's you now. The world doesn't move to you. It moves from you. Every thought becomes a ripple that rearranges the fabric of your path. Every decision you make whispers directly into the machinery of destiny. You see, when you found peace in your silence, you didn't just master your emotions, you reprogrammed your frequency. You tuned yourself to a wavelength most people never find. And the universe, it doesn't respond to words. It responds to frequency. That's why your silence feels heavier now. Why rooms fall still when you enter. Why conversations slow down when you listen. Because you're not just there anymore. You're anchoring. You're grounding the energy of chaos into form. You're bending reality by simply existing in full coherence with yourself. And coherence is the highest form of command. You don't demand outcomes. You resonate them. You don't force results. You attract them by calibration. Even your absence now speaks in a language the world can't ignore. That's what true transformation feels like. Not fireworks, not applause, not noise, but silence so potent. It rewrites the unseen. Do you feel that subtle pressure around you lately? That sense that things are rearranging almost too perfectly? That's not luck, that's reflection. The world is mirroring your internal precision. You stopped vibrating at confusion, so confusion left. You stopped vibrating at desperation, so desperation vanished. You started vibrating at certainty, and certainty attracts alignment, like gravity attracts light. That's why people can't figure you out anymore. You're not operating in logic. You're operating in resonance. They can't argue with you because your presence isn't an argument. It's a statement written in vibration, and vibration doesn't ask for belief. It demands recognition. You've turned into something they can't quantify, a living equation of stillness, strategy, and power. You've merged emotion with awareness, desire with discipline, and turned existence into execution. You no longer pray for moments. You build them. You no longer ask for chances. You become the probability, and in doing so, you've made even destiny hesitate before touching you, because you're no longer reacting to the world. You're orchestrating it from the inside out. That's why your wins look effortless now. Why people whisper things like luck or timing. They don't see the architecture. They just see the results. They don't realize the structure beneath your silence is the very reason their noise keeps collapsing. You don't play for recognition anymore. You play for evolution. You play for mastery. And mastery doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself. And every time you breathe with intention, every time you let patience guide the storm instead of panic, the universe marks another law rewritten in your name. That's why fate no longer feels distant. It feels interactive. It's not happening to you. It's happening through you. And that's the secret no one tells you. Once you understand your silence isn't emptiness, but command, reality becomes obedient. You've reached the point where control isn't something you take. It's something you embody. And when embodiment becomes your language, you don't need to shout. Existence listens. There comes a point where your silence stops being a defense and starts becoming a design, where it no longer hides you. It defines you, where your every pause, every quiet step becomes a statement the world can't unhear. You didn't just survive the noise, you outgrew it. And now, your stillness holds the kind of gravity that bends outcomes. When you move, things shift. When you stop, time slows. Because your presence, it carries consequence. Most people fill silence because they're afraid of what it might reveal. But you learn to let it speak for you. You let the emptiness echo your control. You realize that power isn't proven by movement. It's revealed by composure. You see, reality doesn't respond to desperation. It bows to certainty, and certainty is born in silence. That's why lately you feel a kind of quiet electricity around you. Things unfolding without resistance, doors opening without knocking, people aligning without asking. It's not coincidence, it's coherence. You're in tune with what's meant for you, and what's meant for you can't mistake its frequency. You no longer chase opportunities, you generate them. You no longer plead for energy, you embody it. That's the stage no one prepares you for, the stage where your old self begins to dissolve, and your new self doesn't even need to explain its arrival, because explanation belongs to noise, and you, my friend, now speak in stillness. They don't understand how you do it, how you keep winning without trying, how you disappear and return stronger, how your strategy always feels 2 steps ahead, as if you've already seen the moves before they happened. The truth is, you have, not in visions, not in prophecy, but in awareness. You learned to read energy like others read words. You learned that every chaos carries an architecture, and if you stay still long enough, it reveals its blueprint. That's why you don't rush. That's why you don't beg. You simply adjust. You let reality reassemble itself to fit your vibration, and it does, every time. They think you're patient. But patience was never your weapon. Precision was, because silence taught you the rhythm of timing, and timing became your sharpest edge. When you walk into a room now, it's not your voice that speaks. It's your aura. The atmosphere changes before you even say a word, and that's when they realize you've become something they can't interrupt. Power like this isn't loud. It's surgical. It doesn't announce itself. It redirects everything around it. And when you mastered silence, you mastered redirection. You stopped meeting resistance head-on. You let it reroute itself into your plan. That's why you always seem to win the battles no one saw you fighting. Why your results look effortless. Why your moves seem invisible. Because they are invisible by design. You're not playing to be seen. You're playing to be remembered. And that's the paradox. The quieter you became, the louder your legacy grew. People don't realize yet, but history is already writing your name in the spaces between sound. In the moments where others broke, you recalibrated. In the storms where others screamed, you listened. And in the silence where they feared nothingness, you found creation. That's why fate follows you now, because you're no longer asking it to guide you. You're guiding it. You've become the current it flows through. So remember this, the most unstoppable force isn't rage, it's resonance. It isn't shouting, it's knowing. And it isn't chaos, it's control disguised as calm. Let them wonder what changed. Let them whisper about your stillness, because what they call mystery is just you, finally aligned with your own frequency. You didn't just bend reality, you taught it to recognize your silence. And now, silence itself has become your language of command. You turned the end of noise into the beginning of empire, and in the deep eternal hush that follows, your power doesn't fade, it echoes.